Welcome to the Trainer Talk, where we discuss topics related to health and fitness to help you gain back control of your health and fitness and become the absolute best version of yourself physically and mentally. Enjoy. Today, we're going to be talking about why we eat the foods that we eat. So, for me, I think for a lot of people, we eat based off emotions, so like how we're feeling. So, when you think about, when people eat foods that they like junk foods or snacks or treats, it's usually because they're either bored or they're sad or stressed out or angry. So, when we're stressed, it's like, okay, what do I want to do to feel better? I'm going to have chocolate or ice cream or cookies, whatever it is, because it's right in front of us. When we're stressed, same thing, or sad, same thing, makes us feel better because we get that hit of dopamine, we get the sugar, makes our brains in our happy mode basically. So then we become kind of addicted to it. So then every single time we're stressed or sad, what do we think about? We think about the foods that make us feel better. So people are turning to these things every single time that they're stressed out or sad or in some type of emotional state. So what I want to ask you guys, or like what we can try to help the audience accomplish, is recognizing when we're in these emotional states and then coming up with a different way to feel better without turning to these unhealthy foods. You mentioned earlier, like, so many people grab stuff when they're bored. So I want you to kind of start with that. Maybe give an example. Maybe you've done it.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe something that you could do instead of turning to food when you're bored. So
Yeah, well, first I wanted to add one thing I thought was kind of funny is, when you find yourself reaching for those foods that you're craving when you are bored and these things happen, if you ask yourself like maybe I should just have an apple or something. You're not craving an apple. You're not craving vegetables. You're not craving these healthy foods. So right there, that tells you, okay, maybe I really don't need this food.
right, you're not actually hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
In other words,
But going back to eating when you're bored, I've done it plenty of times, and it's not the real you. You're not really needing that food. Oftentimes we don't just eat when we're hungry anymore. So, instead of listening to our hunger cues throughout the day, when we're feeling hungry, when we're feeling full, and stopping, 3/4 of the way full, we just eat when we're bored. We eat when, like you said, stressed, anxious, sad, as coping methods.
Yep.
And so, an example would be for me, a lot of times on the weekends at night is when I'm most vulnerable to that happening because I'm not on my same routine that I am throughout the week as I am on the weekends. I'm staying up later on the weekends because I don't have to get up early. And so I'm finding myself staying up later, and then as I'm watching these movies or shows, I'm like thinking about food. I'm like, that would taste good. And so I think for me, it's the act of not going to bed at the same time. My meals are different sometimes, so just getting out of that routine kind of cascades into getting those cravings when I'm bored at night.
Yeah. So I have an idea. So obviously a lot of people, and like even myself, like on the weekends I kind of just want to enjoy myself. Like maybe I do stay up and watch a movie. And maybe I go into the kitchen and I grab a bag of chips or like a tub of ice cream or whatever ridiculous snack it would be. How could I still enjoy it and like enjoy my weekend without going overboard?
Yeah, that's exactly where it becomes bad is when you go overboard.
Yeah. So like for me, what I've found helps is single serving snacks and like go into the kitchen, like instead of taking the whole bag of chips into there or the tub of ice cream, like just pour some chips into a little bowl, take that in there, put it away, pour yourself a little bowl of ice cream, put the ice cream away, go in, you know what I mean? Like so many people, I feel like they just grab way too big of a thing and they go in there and then that's when you just mindlessly devour thousands of calories.
Yeah.
Because you're not even focusing on what you're doing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's, a lot of psychology that kind of goes into it, especially with like watching a show and then wanting to eat. That's kind of ingrained of like, oh, okay, I watch TV, I'm relaxing, I'm using food to relax, or I'm using food to de-stress from the day or something like that. And then, having like just a snack to mindlessly eat. And that's when you're not paying attention to what your body's telling you. It's usually a specific food that you want, and it's all about taste. It's nothing about nutrition, is when you're just distracted and eating in that kind of aspect, and especially with getting off like a routine. So the biggest thing is, yeah, like have a pre-portioned measure out of whatever food you want. Um, I would You could always do an experiment and have a certain amount of calories set aside for a snack every night, and so then that way you don't feel deprived of your snack, but it's still controlled. So like
Yeah.
have 2,000 or 200 calories at the end of the day to like have a little treat. And you can get like there's mini ice cream sandwiches that are 100 calories each. And it's like you can have your little treat at the end of each day, but just make sure it doesn't go overboard. And if you have it already planned in, you're able to stay on track better throughout the day too, because you know that you're gonna have it at the end of the day, have that little treat, which habit wise, it's not the greatest thing, but that's the best step in the right direction. Rather than just trying to like cut everything out, because then you end up going overboard. Because like once you have that one piece of chocolate or that one handful of chips, you're like, oh, I already broke my promise to myself that I wasn't going to eat it, so I'm just going to eat the half bag.
Yeah.
So having that already planned in is really going to help as far as just like controlling it and not having such like a toxic relationship with the treats or like the more like junk foods.
Yeah.
I've been reaching for something else. Like for me, I can find the tendency to be bored or like want to mindlessly eat while watching a show or a movie or something like that, especially on weekends if you're doing it for a long time. And like staying on your eating schedule is pretty big, and then having that plan out snack, but then also I find that you're much less likely to have those mindless eating or the tendency to want to eat while you're bored, to get away from that discomfort if you're busy with your hands and your mind as well. So like doing chores around the house,
Right.
like getting things done, being productive, that gives you a hit of dopamine because you're completing tasks, which is what your brain is wanting. It's wanting dopamine, it's wanting stimulation. You're keeping your mind busy, you're keeping your hands busy, and it's like you also get things done as well. So, if you want to do something other than household tasks or household chores, do something a little, like do something that's going to take you 5 minutes. Set a timer, go for 5 minutes. Like, I'm going to clean up my room for 5 minutes. And then when I'm done, I'll reward myself.
It's funny because most of the time when we choose some of the foods that we want to eat, it's because we're stressed, because we have so much to do. Whereas to combat that, you could just do the things you're supposed to do, and you relieve the stress, and you don't mindlessly eat. So it's kind of funny. It's like a double-edged sword. Like, so next time unless it's obviously super super late, you're not gonna want to do very much. But like next time it's middle of the day, and you're like, oh, I'm kind of hungry. I'm gonna reach for this snack. No, it's just take a second and think about, okay, am I hungry enough to like eat chicken broccoli rice right now? If you're not, you're probably not actually hungry. You're just craving something, which means your mind wants some sort of stimulation and dopamine, like you said. So maybe it is just starting to do stuff around the house. And it's so funny because once you start something, you really easily get into a flow state. So if you ever have been in a situation where it's like, oh, there's kind of some stuff around my room, I'm going to clean that up. And then it's like, oh, I need to make my bed. And then you make your bed. And it's like, oh, there's some stuff in the bathroom. Then you clean the bathroom. Next thing you know, your entire house is clean because you got into this flow state. So sometimes all it takes is like one little thing, like you said, 1 minute, 5 minutes of, hey, I'm going to do some chores on the house. Next thing you know, you got all your chores done. Your stress is relieved. You found out you're not hungry. And then you didn't just sit on the couch and mindlessly eat a bunch of calories. Yeah. So that would be a very, very good tip. But I also love, like, if you are going to snack, have like a limit of like, okay, I'm going to allow myself this 200 calories of whatever I want to eat, a couple cookies, an ice cream bar, whatever it is. Then you can stay on track so much easier during the day with everything else. You look forward to that treat. and then you don't get off track the next day. Because a lot of people they're like, oh, I'm try to stay on track, not gonna eat bad, I'm not gonna eat bad, and they have the ice cream like, oh, I blew it, screw it, I'm just gonna eat like crap the rest of the week. Like that's usually how it goes.
It's like they got a flat tire and then they're like, oh, I'm just gonna
Stab
stab
every
a hole
other
in the
tire.
other three.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
They get overly frustrated because they let themselves down and they set unrealistic expectations of being perfect. Whereas, like we always say, 80-20 rule. So, like, what you could do is have 80% of your calories towards the whole, very like minimally processed foods. You know, the chicken, the broccoli, rice, the potatoes, meat. You know, everything like that, vegetables, and then you have your 20% of your calories, which is either depending on how much you eat. It can be more. So, like, you eat 4,000 calories a day. You know, that could be 800 calories at the end of the night for you as like
It's
a
a
big
lot.
snack.
I wouldn't even do that, but yeah.
Right. So like, someone like you, maybe a 500 calorie or something like your Blizzard, right? That'd be kind of you already know that you're going to have that at the end of the week. It's already planned in. So okay, I'm not going to go and get a Blizzard tonight because I'm going to go and get a Blizzard on Saturday.
Exactly.
So having that planned out kind of helps you to stay on track better. Mm-hmm. And then the biggest reason, people eat for hunger maybe 20% of the time. Yeah, I would say.
A lot of times we're actually thirsty. So because a lot of people don't drink enough water during the day. And so sometimes we confuse thirst with hunger. So the next time you're like, ooh, I really want a snack, and if it's the middle of the day, you're working, try drinking like 8 to 12 ounces of water, waiting a few minutes, and see if you're actually still hungry or not. Because a lot of times people just operate slightly dehydrated all day, and their body is craving literally just water. Yeah. They need to be hydrated. So your mind can kind of play some tricks on you. So that's a really good tool as well, is like if you're, just had breakfast and you had your lunch and you're like, oh, I'm still hungry, I really want a snack. Try just drinking a little bit of water, waiting a couple of minutes, and then if you're still really hungry, have a snack. That's another thing, is literally just being prepared with healthier snacks. Yeah. That way you're not, because if you're in an environment like at work and there's donuts and cookies around all the time, like you're gonna probably give in and have some. I would, unless I had a plan ahead of time and had my own snacks. Like I bring up the story of like when we went camping when I was doing 75 hard, and it's literally just this huge fest of family getting together, really good food, bunch of snacks, drinking, all that stuff. I took my own snacks there. I took my own lunches there. I still participated with dinner, was able to enjoy myself. But breakfast and lunch and snacks, I was prepared and had my good options. Yep. So it's just all comes down to preparation and planning, because you're going to run into, meetings at work. Maybe your lunch gets cut short, and then you're stressed and anxious, and then what do? You run a Dairy Queen, and then you get a burger or whatever it is. That's probably not ideal. So we always choose our foods based on the emotional state that we're in. And what we really need to do is step back and think about why we eat. We eat to nourish our body and to fuel our body to literally live and operate and function on a daily basis. And it's funny because so many people will come to us that we work with and they're like, I'm trying to do this healthy eating thing, but it's just so boring. And I get it, but eating is not meant to be an eventful thing. It's not some kind of celebration. You need to eat to live and survive and fuel your body. Yeah. It's not meant to be super exciting.
Only occasionally.
Only on birthdays and holidays and celebrations. That's what those are there for. Not every single day of the week. You're not eating to enjoy it every 100% of our meals. Like that's why I can enjoy a Blizzard every single weekend, because 95% of the time I'm eating to fuel my body, not just to feel good by having some kind of dessert every single day or every single meal. So our society's gone from eating to live or eating to survive to living to eat. Yeah. We literally live to eat. Every single person's like, where are we going to go out to dinner tonight? Like getting some kind of like really delicious meal with probably desserts and pop afterward or whatever.
Yeah. All our social activities are based off of food.
Food or drinking.
If you showed up to like a friend's house, watch a football game, sit down, hang out, there's no food, and be like, what do you like?
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. Yeah. Any social event, it's what's going to be have for snacks, meals. And like you said, like getting together for a football game, you're probably going to have like chips and dips, drinks, pop, burgers, whatever. Yep.
which there's like a couple of things that I want to touch on. There's the reason other than hunger that we'll eat is just because we're avoiding some sort of discomfort, whether that be hunger, stress, emotional, boredom, could just be, the discomfort of having healthier foods and you're not used to it.
Yep.
But avoiding discomfort is when people usually want to eat. And when say like, okay, so they eat a meal or a snack and they're still hungry afterwards. You kind of brought that up, which made me think of a tool where if you're still hungry after a meal, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that because you know that your body got nourishment. Like we have a brain, we can think like, all right, I did put food in my body. My body still wants food. It's more like your brain. You still want food for a different reason. It's like, okay, why do I feel like I still want to eat something? Like first, if there's something that you're avoiding, like a task or something like that, that could be why. And then you can also just think, we know that our next meal is going to come from somewhere. We always know that we're going to have a next meal. It's not like when we were in caveman days, which that's what our body still thinks.
Yeah.
Like it has not evolved from
Right.
that, our hunger cues and everything like that. So your body doesn't have a regular, if you don't have a regular meal time, or if you don't have that snack or that meal planned out in the next, 3 to 5 hours, your brain is like, I don't know when I'm going to get food again, so I need to eat and eat and eat when the food is here.
Yep.
And then, like, then you're overly stuffed or you overeat because of that. And then you can just kind of logic through with yourself and say, well, I know when my next meal is coming. It's going to be in the next 3 hours. I'm going to have a snack.
Right.
So even if I'm hungry now, I know I'm going to get food later. I'm not going to starve.
Yep.
So kind of reasoning through that. And then with cravings, they come in waves. So it's called urge surfing. So where you get the urge to binge or you get the urge to have one of those foods that you're craving, just like ride it out for 15 minutes, go do something productive.
Mm-hmm.
That way the time
Drink
goes by
a glass
faster.
of water or something.
Set up a timer for 5 minutes, go do something productive, come back, and if you still want it, okay, have your portion, whatever. But then it just kind of gives your body and your mind time to reevaluate and see if like the craving goes away. And it's funny. There's another way to think about cravings. Like we always have these urges, physical urges, where we can say no to them or resist them. But when it comes to food, we're really bad at it. So like you might have the urge to yell at somebody or punch
we
somebody,
control it.
but we control it. What do we don't punch everybody every time we get the urge to punch somebody. So it should be the same thing with cravings. Every time we get the urge to eat, a junk food, we should be able to control ourselves because we've done it so many other times before. I mean, think about all the other urges that you have during the day of like, oh, I have the urge to skip work and then just lay in bed all day. And it's like hit snooze and lay in bed and call in sick to work. It's like you have that urge, but do you give in to it? No. It's the same thing. It's just like you just kind of roll with it. You're like, okay, well, I really want to have that food, but I'm gonna say no to it right now. It's just like, do I really need it? Nah. All right, go about my day. Do I really need to punch that person? No. Is there going to be future consequences if I do that? Yes. Okay, I probably shouldn't do that.
If we can just think about the future consequences of all that mindless eating,
yeah,
I think the big thing, a few things to take away from what you just said. One is just being intentional. So like taking that 5 minutes and just actually thinking, am I actually hungry right now? Like, yes, I am. Okay, I'm going to have it. That's better than just grabbing it and mindlessly eating. Yeah. You were intentional about having that snack. You were aware of what you were doing. A lot of people don't realize how mindlessly they eat. Yep. And to second that, why do we crave those things? It's because we were talking about this in our bike ride. Sugar is like the most addictive substance there is, more than cocaine. So there's studies where they've taken mice and they gave mice cocaine and got them addicted to it. And then they took mice and gave them sugar and got them addicted to it. And then they put cocaine and sugar in the same study, and they all went to the sugar. Mice chose the sugar over the cocaine. That's how addictive it can be because it stimulates the same receptors in our brain as drugs do. And that's why we want it, because it makes us feel so good. So by just sitting back and realizing, okay, I only want this because I want a little boost of dopamine. I want to feel good. So choose something else that makes you feel good. Yeah. Wait a little while. If you're still actually hungry, maybe have something, but make it intentional, controlled amount. That way you don't go overboard.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's really just we need to do something to stimulate ourselves. So doing some tasks, or maybe it's doing something else you enjoy, like you like going outside and riding your bike, or going for a walk, playing with your dog, like anything else to just occupy your time. Maybe it's getting some stuff done. Those are all such big things. And
Even
so,
playing a video game.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
For
sure.
Like even if it's not the most like productive thing, but it keeps your hands busy. You can't eat well. Depends on the video game,
Yeah.
but something that is engaging, like
Yeah.
play Mario Kart with your kids or
Right.
something like that,
Yeah.
or bond with your significant other. Like that would be something it adds value, even if it's a little bit mindless. There's at least you're doing it with someone, so you're building a relationship while you do it.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to add to when you mentioned, like, if you're craving something, or maybe if you just ate and then you're like, oh, I'm still kind of hungry, we have a long digestive process. So usually it takes 10, 15, 20 minutes before your gut signals your brain, okay, we're full. So most of the time it's going to take just a matter of minutes to eat a big old plate of food. We eat fairly fast. So something else that you can do is just eat a little bit slower. After you've finished your food, wait 10 or 15 minutes, and then if you're still actually hungry, maybe grab a little bit of a snack. But most of the time it's going to take 10 or 15, 20 minutes after that meal for your gut to be like, okay, we're actually full. Because your brain's going to want more. Like you said, your brain's telling you, okay, yeah, we're not full yet. And another funny thing, just to go along with like how much we crave stuff, is, have you ever heard, my dinner side's full, my dessert side is empty?
Yeah.
So okay, we could not eat one more bite of our chicken broccoli rice, but we could eat a whole pint of ice cream.
Oh yeah.
That just goes to show right there, we're not actually hungry.
Yeah.
We just want that good, happy dopamine feeling, those endorphins. So if we can just stop and realize that and be like, okay, I just want to hit a dopamine. What else could I do other than devour this pint of ice cream?
Yeah.
That's going to help people in the long run reach their health and fitness goals. Right there.
Yeah. That's the one thing that made me think of, like, it takes a while for the food to get down to your stomach and then for your body to realize that it's full. That's the trick with fast foods. Is one, it's so easy to eat because it dissolves in like four chews and then you're able to swallow it. Whereas if you have broccoli or potatoes or something like that, it takes a lot longer to actually chew and start the digestive process. And so, you can eat a fast food meal in like 10 minutes, but then if you have a regular meal, it takes 15. And so, or whatever it is, it's just kind of an arbitrary number. But anyways, it takes longer to eat and then digest that other food. So you actually feel full, when you're 70% way through the meal. And that's why people that switch from the highly processed foods to then come into our 6-week challenge or something like that, and they're eating all this whole food, they're like, I can't eat all of this food. It's because they're used to eating more processed foods. They're able to get all this food down right away. And then when they get the more healthy, I guess, harder to digest foods, they aren't able to eat as much volume just because they feel so full.
I was seeing if we had anybody watching. It looks like there's 3 eyeballs on.
Okay.
So in case we had any questions or anything, you could post them in comments or chat or anything. We wanted to do that too.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Anyways,
4.
I wanted to go back to going overboard on eating, on your late night snacks, or if you, the tire analogy, maybe you mess up and then you just say screw it, go overboard, right? A lot of people come in here and they have that problem. We've talked to plenty of them where they have one little thing and then it just snowball effects into a whole day or a whole weekend of off the rail eating, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of that. And I follow a registered dietitian on Instagram, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I bring it up because we were talking about it. But he's doing this Halloween project. He bought 2 bags of Reese's pumpkins, and he's gonna have it was either 1 or 2 servings every night for 2 weeks to show that there's no food that doesn't fit into a good diet.
Right.
So there's no problem with having that treat. The problem occurs when that treat becomes the whole bag of chips or the whole bag of Reese's or M&Ms or whatever. And so that's one exercise that if you don't have that problem, don't worry about it. Like you're fine. But if you are one of those people that have one thing and they're so restrictive that as soon as they have that one thing, it just goes all, it hits the fan, right? Just allow yourself to have one every night as a practice to limiting yourself and having that self control.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to.
It builds discipline.
Exactly.
Like you're still enjoying it. You get
Yeah.
to eat something that you love, but you're not going overboard. It's a small percentage of your calories, like what she said, like 10% of your calories every day. If it's whatever you want, as long as it's not going overboard and off the rails and it's too much of a surplus, then it's perfectly fine. Like if you think about it this way, there's no such thing as a healthy food and an unhealthy food. It's all about the amount that we eat. If I had one little broccoli every day, I'm not going to be super healthy. Same thing if I have one Oreo every single night, it's not going to make me unhealthy. It's okay, if I want to be healthy, I got to have 3 meals with broccoli in it, plus protein and healthy whole foods, and then I can still have an Oreo. I'm going to be healthy. Whereas some people are like, oh, I ate some vegetables for breakfast. I'm going to just have whatever I want for lunch, dinner, and all my snacks.
Yeah.
I'm eating pretty healthy when it's like 20% of the foods that they're eating are healthy. So it's all proportion based. But I 100% agree. Like somebody could literally have 3 cookies every night. And if they're in the right amount of calorie range and they're eating whole foods and nourishing their body, getting enough protein, they could do that every single day for the rest of their life. They're going to be a healthy individual.
Yeah, exactly. You can't forget about the calories in, calories out. So that still stands, right? If you're eating more calories than you're burning, you're going to gain weight or not lose weight at least. Right? So you still have to be within that caloric deficit range with these treats, but if you're still having them within that range, then it's totally fine. You're still going to meet your weight loss goals, and like you said, it builds discipline.
Yeah, and then, like discipline is definitely a skill. Like that whole exercise that he mentioned with, okay, I'm gonna have 1 or 2 every night for the next 2 weeks. That's building the skill of restraint, the skill, because for most people, they view those foods as like either I don't have it at all or I go overboard, and so that's their routine with it. They have that ingrained habit of behavior of eating too much of it or always overeating on certain things. But if they can practice the skill of restraint, of like, okay, I'm going to practice just like, practicing snatches or something for the first time. Like, you got to kind of work up to it. You kind of get better at it over time. You're not just going to all of a sudden, one day I'm going to decide that I'm going to be amazing at snatches and I'm going to be able to do it flawlessly. That's the same thing with like eating junk food every day and then all of a sudden deciding I'm never going to have it again. I'm going to cut it out and never have it again. But doing that just like a little bit each day, okay, I'm going to practice just restrain myself to these 2 Reese's pumpkins for the next 2 weeks. And then you're like, oh, okay, I can do it. Like I can only have this little portion when I say I'm going to. And then you kind of rebuild trust with yourself when you make that promise to yourself of I'm just going to have this. And because every time you make the promise of I'm never going to have sugar again, I'm cutting it out. And then every time you break that, you lose belief in yourself. And that's where like
you're kind of setting yourself up for failure at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to say was like, I don't think we realize that personality traits are skills. Like people are like, I'm just not a motivated person. I'm just not a disciplined person. It's like we all start out the same. Discipline is a skill you have to learn. Learning how to motivate yourself is a skill you need to learn. Having patience is a skill you need to learn. Like people think it's all genetically based. Like even with diseases and stuff. It's like, oh, my parents and my grandparents were really unhealthy. They had heart disease. I'm probably going to have it. It's actually a lot less percentage than you think. It's all more about lifestyle choices and lifestyle habits. So the earlier you can start adopting some of these good traits and habits, the better off you're going to be. And it just starts with, recognizing, okay, why am I eating this? What else can I do to combat this? How can I be intentional about it so that I'm not mindlessly eating? And then how can I set up a sustainable plan where I can still enjoy myself but achieve my goals or live a healthy and happy lifestyle? That's really the goal with this whole thing is obviously people aren't going to be able to completely avoid their cravings, completely avoid sugar, completely avoid giving into those circumstances where you're just wanting to dive in and mindlessly eat. But if you can just build a plan around it, be intentional, and control the amount, you will be successful in the long run.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I think that'll wrap up for today. So yeah, this is cool. It's first live. Looks like we had a few people opt in and watch. So we're gonna do this hopefully every single week moving forward. I know it's kind of an inconvenient time for a lot of people, like usually 10:30, 11 o'clock. But if anybody has questions that's on here, feel free to post them in the comments, and then we can kind of do a little live Q&A at the end. But it looks like for today we don't have any. Hopefully in the future we'll keep getting more and more. We'll post this into our groups on Monday and on our Facebook page on Monday. So if you miss it or if you want to go back and watch it, it's going to be on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, and our Facebook group, which is the Thumb Strong group. So,
and if they want to add some comments under the post after it's posted,
yeah, we can reach out and answer any questions that people have.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Trainer Talk. If you are ready to gain back control of your health and fitness, we would love to sit down and chat with you to see if we can put together a plan for you. All you have to do is head to TaylorHutchinsonFitness.net and book a free consult. Again, make sure you like and subscribe if you like the video, and hopefully we'll see you soon.